In the series Kaiju No. 8, Kaiju are monsters that attack society far and wide. Their origin is completely unknown. However, for centuries, they have terrorized humanity without relent. The main character of the entire series, Kafka Hibino, is a unique case in all of history. A human that has the ability to turn into a kaiju, becoming the 8th identified numbered kaiju after a random small insect type crawled into his mouth. Kafka's journey throughout the series involves coming to terms with his new transformation and being loyal to the promise he made to Mina Ashiro, captain of the 3rd Division and Kafka's childhood friend, that he would always be by her side, defeating kaiju with her. A man in his early 30s who originally worked for Monster Sweeper Inc., the kaiju corpse disposal unit. After several years in that line of work, Kafka meets Rino Ichikawa, a young teenager who only became employed by Monster Sweeper to gain experience for joining the defense force. This upsets Kafka, who, despite making that early childhood promise with Mina, was unable to ever pass the recruitment exam for the anti-kaiju defense force. After multiple failed attempts and Mina becoming a division captain who's a household name in the country, eventually Kafka and his promise became forgotten and lost to time. However, after meeting Rino and saving his life from a kaiju accident, Kafka swears to make one last attempt and join the defense force to reunite with Mina and make good on their childhood vow. Ironically, directly after this is when Kafka involuntarily becomes a kaiju, so he's got a couple problems in his way before he accomplishes that. Kafka starts off being unable to control his kaiju powers, almost exposing himself multiple times or having his limbs transform against his will, until eventually he gains the freedom to train and experiment with the form once his identity is out in the open and he's accepted by the rest of the defense force. Thankfully so, because the main reason Kafka continually failed the recruitment exam is made clear when the Bachelor is unable to even bring out 1% of his combat suit's potential. In fact, part of the reason Vice Captain Hoshina claims to have passed Kafka at all is because Soshiro finds it comical there's someone that sucks that much. Of course, Soshiro also suspects Kafka of being a kaiju at the time, so that plays a part in it as well. Even after months of training, the most Kafka is able to bring out of his suit is 1%. But thankfully, Kafka doesn't have to worry about fighting as a human, as once Kafka is able to get the grasp on controlling his kaiju form, he genuinely becomes one of the most powerful creatures to exist. Reaching a maximum fortitude level of 9.8, the highest recorded in history for any kaiju, when fighting as Kaiju No. 8, Kafka is able to absolutely obliterate even Daikaiju threats in one punch. As Kafka develops and learns how the kaiju body's shapeshifting and regeneration powers work, he can use Kaiju No. 8's power to stimulate and improve his attacks by manifesting thrusters on his limbs, or even twist his entire torso 180 degrees to catch a close-ranged opponent off guard. When fully charging up his attacks, Kaiju No. 8 is able to generate a massively powerful electrical energy that flows through his body and drastically increases his damage output. Even when up against Soshiro Hoshina, an extremely fast, devastating threat for any humanoid-sized kaiju, Kafka is able to continually replace any cut-off limbs, as well as perceive Soshiro's quick attacks enough to block or even attempt to dodge. Kafka is quite fast himself, able to scale entire towns in no time to reach people in need of help. He can jump towering heights and even perception blitz other Daikaiju like No. 9 when serious or enraged. Kafka can also use his shape-shifted thrusters in order to increase the speed or distance crossed as well. And because his senses are also stimulated to their peak, he can easily perceive other kaijus in his vicinity in order to pinpoint their exact locations and even their weak spots. Because Kafka is a kaiju, he also gains access to their tough hide and exterior when transformed into No. 8. And due to the shape-shifting ability, Kafka can harden specific locations of his body to better endure damage. The fully transformed Kafka was able to take multiple punches from Isao Shinomiya, the weapons wielder of Kaiju No. 2 and the human with the absolute highest attack power in the defense force. Isao's punches create craters, and Kaiju No. 8 can clash with these blows, as well as provide more efficient counterattacks against them. Isao Shinomiya admits he would have died had No. 2's shield not been in place for Kafka's barrage of attacks. And in this fight specifically, the uncontrolled No. 8 shows its ability to enlarge itself and grow in size to even further increase its stats and range. On top of all of this, Kafka also has access to more common kaiju abilities like firing energy beams, which is just the electrical charges Kafka channels taken physical form. However, because Kafka is still a human at the end of the day, the man has a limited stamina and cannot maintain total kaiju form for long. Regeneration and utilizing the electrical energy he can emit is the most draining specifically on him. However, after becoming accepted by Soshiro Hoshina as Kaiju number 8 and beginning training with the vice captain, Kafka becomes well versed in the Director General's squadron-style combat technique, learning how to properly use Kaiju number 8's power more efficiently, cutting out unnecessary movements and overextensions by primarily focusing his power from the lower body. Although untransformed, Kafka is absolutely hopeless against any combatant with actual skill. When used in tandem with partial Kaiju transformations, Kafka can generate more than enough power in small bursts to overpower most, if not all, threats that come before him. Again, as one of the strongest kaiju ever identified with a 9.8 fortitude rating, overwhelming enemies is a very simple task. Extending the duration of Kafka's kaiju mode just means it can deliver destruction much more reliably and for longer. And despite Kafka having no real battle tact, his long career in kaiju disposal has led to Kafka holding a lot of valuable knowledge on kaiju's weak points and what puts them at a disadvantage, being much more aware of the kaiju anatomy than a mere soldier would, making Kafka not just an exceptional threat as a kaiju, but a valuable teammate and defense force soldier who contributes any way he can to help his comrades. There's no telling how far Kaiju number 8 can go, but one thing's for sure, there's only one other character who could possibly contend for the crown of king. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. I sincerely appreciate you making it this far, and please consider subscribing if you want to keep seeing more content like this in your feed. Check out an end screen video if you want to continue your binge, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.